Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
June started off with a hard-fought win for the Tribe. They got tremendous pitching, good defense, and a clutch hit late to beat their Central Division rivals from Kansas City. Carlos Carrasco was brilliant, and now the Royals get perhaps the hottest pitcher in the American League in Corey Kluber. A win tonight, and the Tribe is back to the 500 mark for the first time since April 10th. And it all starts next on Sports Time Ohio. From the City of Fountains, Kansas City, Missouri, it's Game 2 in this very important series between the Cleveland Indians and the Kansas City Royals tonight at Kauffman Stadium. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Back on May the 19th, the Indians woke up. They were 9 games under 500. They were 9.5 games out of first place. Since then, they've picked up 4 games in the standings, and a win tonight gets them back to the break-even mark. And a big reason for that has been the pitching. And when you talk pitching, you talk Corey Kluber. He's coming off a historic run, a 4-game stretch that saw him strike out 50 batters. No other Indians pitcher has ever done that in the same season.
You know, the first 2 starts in the month of May were just average. But since that point, the last 4 starts, it was Corey Kluber of last year, the Cy Young Kluber. He has been unhittable. He's mixed in a great fastball along with his slider, his cutter, his changeup. Just 2 walks on his 50 strikeouts. Opposition hitting just 195. He's 3-0. He should be 4-0 because that one game in Chicago, he left 1-1 the score. It was a wild pitch that ended up they scored on. He didn't get a win, but he has been pitching very, very well.
And, of course, to go along with the Indians' very good starting pitching, an ever-improving bullpen has helped out as well. And when we come back, we're going to hear from Andre Knott as to why the Indians' bullpen is starting to regain its form from a year ago. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by W.B. Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. City. Overcast skies once again. We had rain earlier this afternoon, but it looks like we're going to have a beautiful evening for baseball as the Indians try to stay hot, looking for their 4th consecutive win. Big reason for the Indians' success of late has been the pitching, top to bottom. The starters have been outstanding, but the bullpen as well has really picked up a lot of the slack. And with more on that, let's go down to Andre Knott.
Well, Matt, in April, the bullpen had an ERA of over 4, and they were 0 for 4 in the month of April. It had guys like me asking Tito Francona, had he overused the guys in the last 2 seasons? He fought that. He said that was not the case. But what was happening, the starters weren't going deep in games, and guys were getting worn out a little bit. But what happened in the month of May, the numbers turned around, but also how they were used. Roles were defined, and guys start getting comfortable. They had an ERA in the 3s in the month of May, and also they picked up the saves and they picked up their roles. And last night looked like a great game from 2013-2014 where each guy found his role and went in and took off. All the guys feel healthy, all the guys like what they're doing, and they like the added addition of Zach McAllister, giving them some length when that comes along as well.
Well, they're feeding off each other right now, and it does go hand in hand. When you have good starting pitching that can give you 7 innings and you have 6 outs to get, that bullpen gets a lot stronger. They're feeding off each other on this road trip. They have been outstanding in the month of May. From May 1st, they have the 2nd best bullpen in all of baseball, so it's going hand in hand. Those starters are going deeper. These guys are getting into their roles, and boy, it's becoming fun to watch because they're closing games out now like they have to.
Well, you look at the 7 guys in the bullpen combined in their last appearance. All of those guys, no hits, 6 strikeouts, couple of walks. That you can live with and go a long way. Corey Kluber will toe the rubber for the Tribe tonight. We're back with the play-by-play next. And 1. Diving stop. Gets up and fires a strike to first. Graham with the line drive, base hit into center field, and the Indians take the lead. Swung on and missed. He struck him out. And the Indians win the series opener here in Kansas City. And the Indians have won 3 straight, 11 of their last 14. They come in 25 and 26. Kansas City, meanwhile, has dropped 6 of their last 7. But they're still in pretty good shape at 29 and 20. The Royals just a half game back of the Twins in the Central. Take a look at the Indians starting lineup tonight. Brought to you by Progressive Insurance. For Terry Francona, Jason Kipnis leading it off, the American League's Player of the Month. Mike Avila second, then Santana. Rayburn batting cleanup tonight. Swisher 5th, Moss 6th. Then it's Yan Gomes, Lonnie Chisenhall, and Michael Bourne. And Jason Kipnis will get us started. Well-deserved Player of the Month honors.
No doubt about it.
After the month he had in May.
Glad to see he did receive that award. He certainly deserved it.
And a first pitch strike from Jason Vargas. Kia in the driver's seat. Jason Kipnis with a hit in 25 of the 29 games played in May. 51 hits. 17 runs batted in, 30 runs scored. Just the third player in baseball history. 50 hits, 30 runs in the month of May. Ty Cobb, Al Simmons, the others. The 1-1. Broke his bat. The ball is foul. The bat ends up just to the right of Eric Hosmer at first base.
Well, let's take a look at that Royals defense. Now we have an opportunity, brought to you by Chrysler. Behind Vargas tonight will be Gordon in left, Kane in center, Rios in right. Moustakas is at third, Escobar at short, Infante is at second, Hosmer at first with Butera doing the catching. Their Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher is Jason Vargas. He's 3-2. 2 of those wins have come against the Indians this year. This will be his third start in his last 4 up against the Indians. He spent some time on the DL. He returned. He started against the Yankees, received the loss.
Kipnis swing and a miss, strikes out. 1 down. Bob Davidson will call the balls and strikes. David Rackley at first, Clint Fagan at second. Hunter Wendelstedt, the crew chief, is down at third. Bob Davidson was in the eye of the hurricane last night here in Kansas City. It was his call at first base that Ned Yost initiated a replay challenge on. Looked like a double play turned by Kansas City. Even the big board and the scoreboard appeared to indicate it was indeed a double play. But for whatever reason, the replay center command in New York did not have the angle necessary to show that it was clearly an out. And so because of that, they had to go with what they had, and they would not overturn the call. The call stood. Ned Yost couldn't believe it. He was shocked. Then today, Major League Baseball sent a memo to the Royals apologizing and saying that they blew it. And Ned Yost said, hey, the system's great. It happens. He said, we made mistakes in that game. Infante bobbles a double play ball, should have got us out of the inning. We had a leadoff guy, Morales, at second, couldn't get him over, couldn't get him in. We struck out.
That's little things.
So he said, I'm not going to put this on the umpires. But obviously, in last night's case, there was a malfunction. Mike Aviles awaiting a 3-1 pitch. And a high pop slicing foul. Rios gives it a look but can't get to it. And you pointed out there weren't a lot of people here in Kansas City complaining back in 1985, were they now?
Yeah, right. Let's complain about a bad call. They won a World Series in '85 because of one. But back then they didn't have replay, and you're never going to get it correct, 100% correct. The replay that we saw, I thought he was out, and we said that, and they didn't have enough evidence to overturn it. So be it. That's yesterday's news.
Avila shoots one deep center. Back goes Kane and makes the catch. 2 down. This was the double play that was called safe. This is the angle that we had that seemed to indicate he was out. But they didn't have the slow motion replay angle available for whatever reason in New York. And then Infante, that's a double play ball. He holds on to it. The Indians, though, cashed in.
They took advantage of it. You're right. They get the extra out. They didn't turn the double play. And I'll tell you, it happens to every team. When you don't turn a double play, sooner or later, it's going to come back to bite you. And it did for the Royals last night. They're a very good defensive team.
Interesting shift for Carlos Santana. Royals have 3 on the left side of the infield. And Moustakas and Escobar are almost on top of each other near the third base line. Can't even see Moustakas. He's over there guarding the line.
Yeah, that's taken a double away on the ground there, so you have Escobar way over in the hole. That's the angle they did not have last night. And you can see the foot's not on the base yet and the ball's in the glove.
Yeah. Now the 2-1. Santana takes another strike. Carlos 1 for 3 last night with a double and of course a walk. 40 walks lead the American League. And a full count. Vargas has walked 11 against 21 strikeouts now in his 30 innings of work. And with 2 down, the payoff pitch is hit pretty well. Deep left field. Back is Gordon on the track and makes the catch right in front of the wall to end the inning. So the Indians go 1, 2, 3, and now the Royals are coming to bat. Brought to you by Toyota. Alcides Escobar in the leadoff spot. Mike Moustakas batting second. Then it's Lorenzo Cain hitting third. Eric Hosmer in the cleanup spot. Kendra Morales batting fifth. And it's Alex Gordon sixth. Alex Rios, Omar Infante, and Drew Butera rounded out.
Our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher is Corey Kluber tonight. His 12th start this year against Kansas City. You can see he's 3-5. He's been on a roll. He's won his last three. 3 starts. Against Kansas City on the year, he's 0-2, but you can see his rankings: second in innings pitched, strikeouts, strikeout ratio. He's back to being normal for Corey Kluber.
First ball swinging, fair ball, down the line it goes. Escobar on his way to second base, and he's got a leadoff double. This aggressive swinging Kansas City lineup.
Well, Dale Swain, their hitting coach, you know he's going to make these guys get aggressive. And that ball was up. And Escobar is a good first ball fastball hitter. And he turned on it and pulled it down inside the line for a double. That'll be his 9th. They will get aggressive. They're not going to sit back and take. This is a ball club in Kluber's first start against Kansas City. Gave up 10 hits and 6 in the third, 7 hits and 5 2/3 in his second start. So they're going to get after you.
Mike Moustakas, 6th in the American League in batting average. And a base hit in the right field. 2 pitches, 2 hits, and a 1-0 Kansas City lead. Mike Moustakas with his 17th run batted in on the year. And he's already hit .448 on average this year against the Indians.
Yeah, he's always hit the Indians well. He picks on a fastball down and in and strokes it to right field. 2 pitches, 2 hits, and the Royals are already on the board.
This is a Kansas City lineup that, in losing 6 of their last 7, in those 6 losses, they scored a total of just 7 runs.
Right.
And this is a team that overall still leads the majors in batting average, even despite their recent drought. You know, sooner or later they're going to snap out of it.
Yeah, in those 6 games, man, they're hitting just 193. But it doesn't matter. They're not wasting time. They know what kind of stuff Kluber has. Kluber had a great year against them last year, but they have made an adjustment.
1 ball, 1 strike. To right field, Moss will make the catch. 1 away.
Let's check that Indians defense, brought to you by Chrysler. In the outfield, it's going to be Rayburn in left. Bourne is in center. Moss over in right. Chisnall gets the start at third tonight. Aviles at short. Kipnis is in second. Santana at first with Gomes catching.
Yeah, that will bring up Eric Hosmer. Hosmer has hit 3 home runs in 29 career at bats against Kluber. Fouls that off of his foot.
Hosmer, a .379 hitter against the Indians this year. 12 ribbies. He's been done most of the damage for the Royals and 3 homers. So.
And the 0-1, he got him to chase.
Nice changeup.
0-2.
That's a pitch that's certainly going to be effective to the left-handed hitters, I think, today. You know, you don't throw that cutter, that slider. There's a changeup down and away, and you can see the swing by Hosmer way out in front.
That 0-2 fastball just outside.
Corey Kluber in this ballpark has posted a 1-2 record lifetime and an ERA of over 5. He has made 12 starts against the Kansas City Royals. His overall record is 4-3.
And a catch by Aviles at short on a soft line drive for out number 2. Ball looked like it was suspended in animation.
Yeah, it would look like a slow motion replay.
Keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Take advantage of the scoring opportunities. The Indians haven't scored much with Kluber on the hill, and you've got to play good defense behind him. So with 2 down and a runner at first, Kendry Morales to the plate. And Morales fouling it back. There's a high fly ball left field. Back goes Rayburn. And onto the track, makes the catch to end the inning. But the Royals come out swinging tonight. Back-to-back hits in the first. They lead it 1-0. One 0 Kansas City. Second inning. And for Cleveland, Ryan Rayburn, Nick Swisher, and Brandon Moss do up. Big curveball, and it's in there for a strike.
Yeah, get me over curveball. Vargas, a guy that likes to get ahead of you with that first pitch and expand the zone and try and get you to swing at his pitch. He will nibble. Not overpowering, but that's a pitch he's got to go inside, make right-handed hitters look in there. He'll throw the changeup away. That curveball mixes it up. But 2 of his 3 wins this year have come against the Indians.
Low again.
After his last start in Cleveland against the Indians, he went on the disabled list. Left flexor strain. That was May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, and that's when his last win was. Five and 3 against the Indians in his career in 11 starts.
Low again. Really nibbling but missing down, and that's where you want to miss if you're a pitcher.
Yeah, he tries to get the hitters to chase and swing at his pitch. You have to be patient.
And that one beats the shift through the hole.
Sure did.
On the left side of the infield, and the Indians have their first hit of the night.
It's a weird look, but you see a lot of guys over on the left side of the infield.
Normally, when you see this ball off the bat, that's a routine ground ball out.
Yeah, but they had look at where the second baseman is, and you still get it in between short and second. So there's one that gets through. It's like the ball had eyes.
Yes, indeed. And up comes Nick Swisher. Takes the first pitch for a strike. Let's go down to Andre with more on what the Indians' approach against Vargas will be tonight.
It's said to be patient, but to be on the toes of your feet, because what they say Vargas does is he lulls you to sleep. He's in, he's out, he's slow, and then he'll pop one by you. Nick Swisher said he's not like the pitcher he was when he came up with Seattle. He goes, you just have to be on your toes against Vargas because he'll pop one by you when you least expect it.
Yeah, be ready for that first pitch because he wants to get a strike. But, you know, after that, you have to remain patient and make him throw you a strike to hit or make him get the ball up. Yeah, guys like this sometimes will drive you a little crazy because they continue to never give in, and sometimes as a hitter you get a little too over aggressive.
Swisher down on the count, a ball and 2 strikes. Nick just 1 out of 13 on the trip. In tight, that'll even the count, 2-2. Swisher, then Brandon Moss here in the second for Cleveland.
Vargas this year, he started out the year where he held opponents to a 167 average over his first 3. And then when he was beat around, 348 they hit off him. A guy that has to hit his spots.
And the 2-2. Another chopper foul. Last year in the postseason, which the Royals went to the World Series, Vargas started 3 games, including Game 4 of the ALCS against the Orioles. He didn't pitch a lot, just 15 innings in the 3 starts, but he had 11 strikeouts and a .352 ERA. A little bit outside and a full count. Vargas with a 3-2. No, a toss to first instead, where Rayburn only had a couple of steps off the bag.
Yeah, and Rayburn's not going anywhere.
And a 3-2 pitch. Strike 3 call. Second strikeout for Vargas. 1 down here in the second inning.
Well, he comes at him. He's going to go away with that pitch. Outside corner at the knees. Swisher can't pull the trigger. He'll go down as the first out of the inning.
And it brings up Brandon Moss. Moss has had an interesting road trip. He's 8 for his last 14. And overall on the trip, he's 10 for 21. Couple of doubles, couple of homers, and a little bit of everything else in between. He's had opposite field broken bat bloopers. He's had opposite field line drives. He's beaten the exotic shifts a couple of times. Well, this is what they expect from Brandon Moss.
Can't defense that.
No.
Gets into the bullpen. That tied the game at 1. See, there's the teaser pitch for Moss right there. Brandon's going to have to make him get the ball down a little bit. He's throwing it up there and trying to get him to chase after, but he was ready for the high fast or for a fastball first one. That's why he got after it.
For Moss last night, the 100th home run of his career. And Moss finds the gap in right center field. Rayburn can run all day. He's around second. On his way to third. He'll be waved home with the tying run as Brandon Moss delivers an RBI double. His 30th run batted in on the year. And it's a 1-1 game here in the second inning.
And the Indians come right back and respond like they did yesterday, Matt, after Kansas City got on the board. We'll make this our McDonald's. I'm loving it. He got a ball down. Good low ball hitter is Brandon Moss, and he plugs the gap in right center field. He loves to hit in this ballpark. And that's going to allow Rayburn to score from first easily. So Moss with his 12th double, his 30th ribby. And back come the Indians and tie it at 1.
And with the double, Moss in scoring position now for Yan Gomes. And Gomes looks at a ball down low. Ryan Rayburn had his track shoes on as he scores all the way from first. Gomes trying to go the other way. Fly ball toward right, and Rios will make the catch. And Moss holds at second. 2 down. Our window systems game time temperature tonight 73 degrees. A light breeze blowing in from right field. Lonnie Chisenhall. 1 for 4 with a double last night. As the Indians look for that 2-out hit with a runner in scoring position to try and take the lead. Lonnie sends a high pop into shallow right. Out goes the second baseman Infante. Called off by Rios. The inning is over. But the Indians use a pair of hits to tie the game here in the second. Moss drives home Rayburn. 1-1 middle of the second inning.
Ball is back in 2015 with the MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. Stay connected with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Now it'll be Alex Gordon, Alex Rios, and Omar Infante for Kansas City here in the second inning. And And Gordon with a foul right back. Swung out and missed. Gordon in his last 11 games against the Indians has driven in 9 and collected 5 extra base hits. But they held him off the board last night 0 for 3 with a walk. To left field, and Ryan Rayburn will put that away. 1 down. Today's Levin player profile features Alex Rios. He was a first-round pick by the Blue Jays back in 1999. And it's another situation, Rick, and we know there are lots of examples of this throughout the history of baseball. Kansas City went looking in the offseason for ways to supplement their roster after going to the World Series last year. This wasn't the #1 target for them. They had their eyes set on another former number 15, and that was Carlos Beltran, but that didn't work out. And they end up with Rios. This guy's still a pretty good player. I mean, he broke his hand earlier in the season. That was unfortunate.
Went from it went from Chicago. No, he's been around. He's a veteran. He's a pretty good player. Ended up in Texas last year, and then of course they signed him in the offseason to help out, and they still have Dyson over there for a 4th guy that's excitement, that can steal bases, he can pinch run, and also get some playing time. And he played right field when Rios was out of the lineup.
Get off the end of the bat foul, and it's 2-1. 2-1 by Kluber. Popped up foul and out of play.
Well, it turns out it's pretty nice weather right now, but I will say something this morning. It certainly was not, was it?
It was like Armageddon storms.
Thunderstorms, and boy, it was nasty this morning.
Now the 2-2.
Nice
Breaking
pitch.
Ball, and just absolutely locked him up.
He froze him with the slider.
First strikeout for Kluber. 2 down here in the second.
Let's make this our Circle K strikeout. Watch him start this slider right at him, and he can't do anything. It freezes him and gets a call on the inside part of the plate. See, Gomes wants it away. That's almost like a backup slider right there, and I still think Rios thought it might have been inside. Davidson makes the call. Kluber gets his first punch out.
And Omar Infante is the batter now with 2 down. Swing and a miss. Infante is in the midst of a 2 for 30 slump at the plate.
Well, he had a tough day yesterday, all the way around, both offensively and defensively. That's the pitch he was swinging at all last night.
And Kluber goes to work on the 0-2, just off the end of the bat.
Yeah, you can expand that a little bit more and get it off the plate. You may get a swing and miss or bounce one. His first time up, he did that last night. He swung at one that bounced.
Fastball away, and wow, didn't miss by much. He couldn't pull the trigger on it, and he's just fortunate that it wasn't called a strike.
That's that little comeback fastball. You look at it on our Nissan pitch tracker. Looked pretty good.
Yeah. Well, he got him to swing and miss at the slider, and that's the inning. Back-to-back Ks for Kluber here in the second. Kansas City goes 1, 2, 3, and we're tied at 1 after 2. One our score. Third inning. Michael Bourne to lead it off for the Indians. Then we'll go to the top of the order. And Bourne strokes a single into center field, and he's going to take a big turn aggressively, head for second base. Kane's throw is safe at second base.
How's that for
play? That's a heck of a pick by Escobar, because that ball was a laser off the arm of Kane, and it was in the dirt. But I love the hustle by Michael Bourne.
I do too. I'm telling you, that play was in front of Kane, so he shouldn't have got burned on it. As he's coming in like this, see, Bourne's leaving the batter's box thinking about it. And he says, I'm going to challenge him. Why not? I'm leading off the inning. He gets in there, and he gets his hand on the base, and the umpire comes around, and it's a great hustle. It was a great pick there by Escobar, and I don't think he tagged him on the back there. At least we can't see it. And then Michael's hand comes back and stays on the base. Tremendous job to get himself in scoring position with nobody out.
So that hustle sets it up now for the Indians. And Jason Kipnis, the batter, takes a strike.
The more I watch outfielders nowadays, and I'm not, this is a big outfield. I'm thinking more runners should try and do that, challenge some outfielders' throws, and put the pressure on the defense. If you can break out of the batter's box thinking too, and it's not hit directly at them.
Kipnis with a hard ground ball to first. He'll get the runner over to third. That's ultimately his job in that situation.
Yeah, job well done. You move the runner. Almost caught the bonus finding the hole between first and second, but at least he gets his job done, and it gives Mike Aviles an opportunity to get him in and see if the Royals will bring in the infield. Try and cut it off at home plate.
Looks like they will. And so this is a play with one out. It's a read play for Bourne, right? It's if he sees it on the ground immediately, you go.
I'll tell you what, I would go on contact.
Just period.
I would. Hey, if you got a fast guy like this, don't make it go through. Go on contact. Get a good read. If it's right at him, you're a dead duck anyway. If it's not, you have a chance to score. It's not like you have Michael Brantley hitting third. He has the night off, so I would be aggressive here.
Oh, there's a line drive, base hit in the right field. Rios fell down, so no chance to make a play. Bourne will score, and the Indians take a 2-1 lead.
Give Michael Bourne a lot of credit for that run. Hustling right out of the chute, leading off the inning. Got himself in scoring position. They got him over. They get him in. Nice job by Aviles. Getting a fastball up and away, staying on it. Rios slipped a little bit on his break in. That would have been interesting if he comes in to catch that ball. But Bourne scores easily, and now the Tribe goes up 2-1.
And Carlos Santana steps in. He drove the ball to deep left field his first time up. He put Gordon about a step or two in front of the wall. And there's a strike called to even the count at 1-1. Santana with a broken bat single into center field, and Aviles will stop at second. And so back-to-back hits keep the inning rolling. 3 hits already in the third for Cleveland.
I was going to tell you, after a 1-2-3 first inning, boy, they put 2 hits on the board in the second, 3 here now in the third. And this is off the end of the bat. Not that it's a bad pitch. It goes off the end, and Santana hits it into center field. So first and second now, and just 1 out. Now, in the first 2 starts that Vargas has had against the Indians, he pitched 11 innings. They only had 5 hits. Well, they have 5 hits now, and they're just in the third inning. So they have made an adjustment, or their game plan has changed.
There's Ryan Rayburn, ground ball single his first time up. He hit it between the shortstop and second base. The Royals don't commit quite the same shift for Rayburn that they had first time up.
Well, if you're Santana at first base with Hosmer way off the bag, you've got to concentrate on getting a good jump on this ball if it's on the ground, so you can go to get the second baseman. So they can't turn a double play because he can get way off first base.
Which is exactly what he's doing. And Rayburn fouls the pitch off. He's down on the count now, 1-2. Ryan has been a terror of late in really big clutch situations with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position. He's 5 for 17. Now only 1 out here. But the 1-2 pitch is rifled to left field, but foul. The 2-man platoon of Ryan Rayburn and David Murphy, or as Murphy told Andre Knott yesterday, Bobby Rayburn. So they're both going by the name Bobby.
That's right. Bobby Murphy, Bobby Rayburn.
Aviles the runner at second base. Santana at first. And now the 1-2 pitch from Vargas is popped up over toward the Royal dugout, and this will be out of play. Drew Butera gave it a look. Salvador Perez said before the game today he feels fine, and he said he would be available to play or pinch hit. I think this is a case where Ned Yost is just looking out for one of his best players. A tough guy and takes a lot of abuse back there behind the plate. Took a foul tip, nasty foul ball last night off the mask, and He ended up coming out of the game late, but he passed all the concussion protocol tests after the game, so we'll see if Perez makes an appearance at any point tonight. The 1-2 fouled away.
Well, you're absolutely, take a look at it. This guy was throwing 100 last night, and that swing by Gomes, I'll tell you what, that knocked the mask right off the head of Perez, and it took him a minute or two to get his bearings. Although he may not have a concussion, he still may be seeing double.
Good at bat here for Rayburn. The 1-2 pitch. Slowly chopped to short. Could be two here. There's one on the first. They turn. An inning-ending double play. Indians take the lead. Mike Aviles drives home Michael Bourne. 2-1 Cleveland. As you enjoy a cold one, to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Corey Kluber armed with a 2-1 lead now, which was the final score in last night's game. Going to the third, Drew Butera, number 9 hitter, followed by Alcides Escobar and Mike Moustakas. Butera came over from the Angels for infielder Ryan Jackson on May 7th. Interesting trade that was consummated, or at least reportedly consummated, just before our game tonight. Mark Trumbo goes from the Angels to the Seattle Mariners.
You mean the Diamondbacks.
I mean, from the Diamondbacks. Interesting in that the Indians will see Seattle on their next homestand. Well, Mark Trumbo, big right-handed power bat, comes over from the Diamondbacks, and Seattle, all they gave up was Wellington Castillo, who's a backup catcher, and Dominic Leone, who we saw, he was like the last man in their bullpen that pitched in the extra inning game. A couple of prospects were involved in the deal. Butera goes down swinging. That's 3 straight Ks for Corey Kluber. 1 down here in the third. Stat of the game brought to you by Buick. 50 strikeouts, 4 walks or less in a 4-start span.
That's pretty impressive.
And again, Corey Kluber's the only pitcher, according to Elias, for the Indians to strike out 50 batters over a 4-start span in the same season. And that pitch in for a strike to Alcides Escobar. So already this year you've had Jason Kipnis and Corey Kluber accomplishing feats that we've never seen before.
Well, Kluber, wasn't he pitcher of the month last year in May? I think he was 5-0, and he had a minuscule ERA. He was excellent. His first 2 starts in the month of May, he gave up some runs. I think it was about 10 runs, but he settled in. Last 4 starts have been outstanding.
There's a line drive base hit in the left field. So Alcides Escobar seems to have a pretty good approach.
Yes, he does.
Swing early and put it in play.
2 for 2. Well, it'll be Corey Kluber Cy Young bobblehead day. That'll take place June 6th, a Saturday, as the Indians will take on the Orioles. 17,000 fans get Kluber's bobblehead, courtesy of Sugardale. Get your tickets at Indians.com.
Mike Moustakas roped a single into right field that scored Escobar in the first inning. Takes outside, ball 1. Kansas City with a total of 7 runs in losing 6 of their last 7 games. So in those 6 losses, only 7 total runs scored.
Well, as you know, we witness and everybody does around baseball, your team going to struggle.
Hit it again. Moustakas finds the hole, and all the way to third goes Escobar. So Kluber can't solve the top 2 hitters in the Royals lineup tonight. Everybody else he has retired, but Escobar and Moustakas are a combined 4 for 4 on the night.
Yeah, they've set the table nicely, and it gets another low fastball. There it was, down in the zone. He finds a hole between first and second. It'll send Escobar to third, so they have the table set to try and tie this game up at 2s with Lorenzo Cain, the batter. And this guy can get down the line, so if you get one on the ground, you're going to have to hurry to turn it.
Cain flied to right, his first and only time up.
They've done a really good job on him this year. The Cleveland staff 5 for 27.
The 1-0. Right field, slicing, fair ball. Tying run scores. Go ahead run to the plate. Kipnis throw. Gomes gets the tag on him, and Moustakas is out at the dish. And we stay tied at 2.
A well executed relay from Moss to Kipnis, and a beautiful pick by Gomes to apply the tag at home plate. They were trying to steal a run there, and it takes 2 good throws from this outfield because it is so spacious. He just slices it down the line, and watch how Moss plays it off the wall. He gets to it, gets it into Kipnis, and he knows he's got to go all the way home with it. Watch the pick. It was a nice pick, and it's waiting there, and out is Moustakas. Well done.
Good defensive play turned in by the Indians to keep this game tied at 2. Go ahead run now at third base with 2 down for Eric Hosmer. And it's down and in, ball 1.
You know, that's a tricky corner down there to get a ball in. That's why I'm surprised that Moss was able to get it. It bounced high, and he caught it in the air. Able to get it to Kipnis, and that was really a beautiful relay to get the runner at home plate, and it takes 2 good throws in this ballpark. And the key was Moss got it to Kipnis in the air at the shoulder height, where he was able to just turn and throw it to home plate with something on it.
Yeah, and Moss really, he was going, his momentum was carrying back, so he had to really stick that foot in the ground and try to get something on it.
That was really well done.
Good pitch. Crowded him with a cutter, and it's a strike called 2-1. By the way, last May, Kluber was not pitcher of the month, even though he led the majors with 60 strikeouts, went 4-0, and had a 2.09 ERA.
Well, he was my pitcher of the month. He was good. I know he was undefeated.
The 2-1 pitch.
Good breaking ball off his foot.
But how about that, though? Back-to-back 60 strikeout nays for Corey Kluber.
Yeah.
Two here in the third. Hits are even at 5 apiece. And with 2 down and the go-ahead run at third, the 2-2 pitch to Hosmer. To left. Back is Rayburn, and it's off the wall. Royals take the lead. Hosmer into second with a double. So Eric Hosmer delivers his 13th run batted in of the year against the Indians.
Boy, this is a team that they love to hit with 2 outs, and he drives this ball to left field. It's halfway up the fence up there. And Eric Hosmer, boy, that's a big 2-out base hit. 348 hitter with 2 outs. So put him over the 350 mark, and Kansas City scores again with 2 outs.
This is the guy that has been terrorizing opponents with the 2-out hits. Throw to second base, close. Hosmer called safe. Avila snuck in behind him, slapped the tag on him. But the call by second base umpire Clint Fagan was safe.
Well, they're going to wait and maybe take a peek at it and see if they got him. But in comes Avilas.
I think they did get him.
Ooh.
At least that replay angle seemed to indicate he was out.
I don't think Avilas really pleaded his case hard enough to think so. It almost looked like his foot stopped his hand, but it didn't.
Boy. Swing and a miss.
That's where you got to stay with that guy. Cutters down, in, off the plate. Take it. Watch. I thought it stopped his hand, that foot, but he gets it on the inside, and then he tags him up around the elbow or the shoulder. It's hard to tell.
Gets away from Gomes. Down to third goes Hosmer.
It's going to be that'll be a pass ball there. Kansas City, though, 4 straight hits after he struck out the first hitter, and it just, I don't know what happened there to Gomes, but he just doesn't hold on to it. So Hosmer goes to third.
And a 1-ball, 1-strike count on Morales. Morales has the 4th most 2-out RBIs in the American League this year. 19 out of his 37 have been driven in with 2 outs. Kluber's 2-1 pitch inside 3-1.
Yeah, he's not going to give him much swinging room at all.
Full count.
He got that 3-1 count, still went after it inside. Kluber again went in there. That's 4 straight pitches in or in off the plate.
Payoff pitch to left. Rayburn back, yeah, and it's over his head again. Scoring is Hosmer. Morales with an RBI double. And that's 5 straight hits in the inning for Kansas City. And 3 straight doubles.
And for Morales, his 20th RBI with 2 outs. As you mentioned, he has been on fire. Kansas City, one of the best in the business when it hits with 2 outs, and that was a little breaking ball away, and anything away this team is really smoked. Hosmer hit that ball opposite way when it was away. Well, I don't know, that was that looked like a little cutter. Maybe that changeup is going to have to start going to the left-handers down and away off the plate.
Well, Kansas City starting to break out of their offensive funk, and they're doing it in 1 inning here. 5 straight hits, and only a terrific defensive play has kept them from adding at least another run to their score.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Took a great play.
Alex Gordon will be the batter. The 7th man to hit in the inning for Kansas City. The Royals scored in the bottom of the 1st. The Indians came back in the top of the 2nd to tie it. Then in the top of the 3rd to take a 2-1 lead. But here in the bottom of the 3rd, the Royals have put 3 on. Runner at second base with 2 down. Alex Gordon the batter. Ball, 1 strike. Two balls and a strike. Action in the Indians bullpen.
Yeah, well, they've had a very good approach against Kluber.
Austin Adams is the man getting up. 2-1. Gordon way out in front of it. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Again, he had Gordon out in front, but he got a piece of that. Just missed inside with a fastball. Long inning for Kluber. Payoff pitch about to come to Gordon. I don't know how many pitches he's thrown, but it's been a bunch.
Well, he's up over the 50 mark on the game. 51.
Bounced it in front of the plate. Kluber threw 24 pitches in the first 2 innings combined. He's thrown 28 now here in the third, and the 8th man to bat will be Alex Rios, who was called out on strikes his first time up. This inning began when Kluber struck out Drew Butera. It was the 3rd straight batter he had struck out, and then he hasn't retired a batter since. Ground ball right at the shortstop, and Aviles will flip it to Kipnis to end the inning. But the Royals erupt. 5 straight hits, 3 runs have scored. They lead it 4-2. Well, 4-2 now in favor of Kansas City. See if the Indians can come right back with the bats. They've scored in each of the last 2 innings. Nick Swisher, Brandon Moss, Yan Gomes due for the Tribe here in the 4th. Low ball 1.
This could be one of those games in this ballpark where you just keep right on going, battle back and forth. We've seen a number of times over the years here.
Swisher sends one toward right center, and Rios, the right fielder, runs it down. Before Brandon Moss steps in, let's go down to Andre Knott.
You know, Brandon Moss had a big at bat his last time up. In his last 5 games here at Kauffman Stadium, he has 4 home runs. He told me he loves hitting here and in Seattle and Detroit because there are all these big ballparks. He says it feels like the pitcher's a little bit further away. He goes, and the further the pitcher is away, the longer he gets to see the ball, and hopefully the longer he hits it.
You know, isn't it funny? It just feels that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's 60 feet 6 inches. The bigger ballparks are tougher to hit the ball out of the ballpark here. When you talk about here, Seattle, Detroit, not so much Detroit in right field, but it's just that feeling. This is a good hitter's background with the green sitting straight out in center field.
What do they say? Perception is reality. And so if you step in that box and your perception is he's a little bit farther away, I see the ball a little bit longer.
Well, I remember one thing when we used to go into the Kingdome up in Seattle. felt like they were right on top of you.
Now the 1-2 pitch. In tight. Is that the first dome you ever played in?
I'd have to say yes.
That might have been part of the illusion, you know.
Well, it was inside. It's like a warehouse. You didn't like it. Facing guys like Mark Langston, I mean, they're throwing pellets to begin with.
Moss goes fishing. He strikes out. Third K for Vargas, and he retires the first two here in the inning. The injury report brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Tim Collins, left-handed guy, and out of the bullpen. Duffy, one of their starters. Other than that, they're in pretty good shape. Yan Gomes flied to right. His only time up. And it's not that Tim Collins isn't a valuable member of their bullpen, but when you've got guys like Hoshaver, Wade Davis, and who's the guy, Kelvin Herrera, they lefty, right, it doesn't matter.
Well, it doesn't to them. You're right. They just have flat out great stuff.
Straighten him up, 1-1.
Not like Al says good stuff. They have great stuff.
Speaking of great stuff, Oakland shutting out Detroit 5-0 in the 9th inning. Gomes with a base hit into left field. Gomes with his first hit in the series. Two-out base runner for Lonnie Chisenhall.
Well, Friday we will return home. The Baltimore Orioles are coming to town. And on Friday night it's going to be Dollar Dog Night. You're going to enjoy Pepsi products for $1 and also fireworks at the end of the game. So go to Indians.com for your tickets.
Lonnie Chisenhall flied to right. His first time up. Takes. It's a called strike. And there's the pitch to Chisenhall and a foul right back. Twins and Red Sox playing a doubleheader at Fenway. Boston won game 1 6-3. Twins lead the nightcap 2-0. The 0-2 inside. Indians down 4-2 here in the fourth now. Just in 2-2. White Sox riding the arm of Chris Sale so far tonight down in Texas. 6-0 White Sox over the Rangers there in the fourth. Now the 2-2. Chisenhall hammers it to right field. Rios got a late break but makes the catch. No runs, a hit, a man left. Middle of the fourth. 4-2 Kansas City. Kansas City on top as we roll to the bottom of the 4th inning. Omar Infante will lead it off for KC, and then Drew Butera and Alcides Escobar. Our T-Mobile game changer. How about Joey Gallo? What a debut. Triple shy of the cycle. Home run, double, drove in 4.
Well, that's a way to break into the major leagues, except now those fans are going to expect that every day. If you have an 0 for 4, they're going to be upset with you.
Here is Omar Infante. Missed inside. Showed bunt, took a strike. George Wright of Texas played just 5 years in the big leagues.
Yeah, I remember George Wright.
Tell you what, after his rookie year, though, he put up, you talk about the sophomore slump. Heck with that, second year, he hit 18 homers, drove in 80, batted .276. But that was it. Never came close to those numbers again. Ground ball to short. Mike Avila scoops it up, slings it over, and Infante has retired one away. Our great clip of the game from last night. Carlos Carrasco. He went 7 innings, allowed 1 run on 5 hits, walked 2, struck out 8, retired the last 11 in a row. 13 out of the last 15 after the Hosmer RBI single in the 3rd inning. He goes to 7-4 on the year.
He's tell you what, he's turned into a really nice starter. 3-0 in his last 3 starts, a 1.71 ERA. And he's beaten Kansas City twice this year.
High pop over near the line, long run, and I don't think Rayburn can get to it. Whoa, nice effort. He did get there, got leather on it, but couldn't reel it in.
That's a long run, and you're going downhill the last 15-20 feet. He got there, he got leather on it, and when you're running that far and you go into a slide, it does something with your eyes. You hope it goes into the pocket and you can see it hit him on the heel of the glove. Nice effort, nice sliding attempt. And when you're playing Sal Butera, you're playing him over in left center field. So he had quite a ways to run. He had probably 100 or more feet to go for that ball.
Count stays 0-2. As Kluber winds and deals, swung on and missed. 4th strikeout for Corey, 2 down in the inning. Gear up for the 2nd annual Velasano Bike Ride for Cancer Research, July 17th through the 19th. 1-day, 2-day rides. Every dollar raised benefits Cancer Research at Cleveland Clinic. Spread the word, Bike to Cure. Visit velasano.org. Top of the order, Alcides Escobar. He's 2 for 2 with a double, a single, and 2 runs scored. He was just 4 for his last 33 here at home before tonight.
Yeah, go figure. Right-hander's having a tough time hitting Kluber this year, but this one's not.
And he has been aggressive.
Well, that strikeout by Kluber to Butera gives him 100 on the year. Well, that's the way you have to hit off Corey Kluber, is aggressively.
He gets to 100 strikeouts in this his 11th start. Feller, McDowell. Since 1914, the only other guys who did it in 11 starts.
Those are the three names that are going to live around forever. Feller, McDowell, and Kluber.
Now he's over the century mark on the year. 5th strikeout of the night, but the Royals still lead it 4-2. Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Kansas City leads it 4-2 as we head to the 5th inning. And Michael Bourne going to lead it off once again. He led off the 3rd with a double. A hustling double, and came around to score what at that time was the go-ahead run.
Yeah, we remember Bourne jumped on that first pitch, which was a fastball, and he hit it into shallow right center field. So this time, after he gets the base hit, he's starting him off slow. Curveballs.
Jason Vargas signed a 4-year contract with the Royals following the 2013 campaign. So he's inked up through 2017. Bounces it foul, first base side. Bourne bloops one toward left. This might drop.
Oh,
and it will.
Beauty.
And Bourne a wide turn, but he'll hold this time with a leadoff single in the 5th inning.
What a thing of beauty.
Here's our AT&T U-verse rewind. Take us through this.
Well, as the fastball, he jumps on it first time up. And here's Kane that plays in front of him. And Bourne just keeps hustling. Right out of the box, he was thinking double. He got his foot on the bag. He slides through it, but his hand remains on it. Good hustle. That started off the 3rd inning where the Indians were able to come back and take the lead or add on. Make it a 2-1 game. So he starts it off again this inning.
Now Jason Kipnis looks at a ball outside. Struck out in the 1st, grounded out in the 3rd. And nice. He's got his first hit of the month of June as Michael Bourne hits second, but Kane dropped the ball. Bourne keeps going. He'll get to third. And the Indians have runners at the corners on the error by the Royals center fielder. Bourne was going to stop Rick. But once he saw Kane came up with an empty glove, he said, well, I'm going to keep on going.
Yeah, he was charging it, and he thought it was in his glove. You're right. And the next thing you know, it's out of the glove. He brought it in, and he'd never caught it cleanly. So it'll go as a base hit, an error on Kane, and now the Indians will have runners at the corners with nobody out, getting into the big part of the lineup. You like it. You like it a lot. Kane upset with himself. That's just being in a hurry. He really didn't have to be because Bourne wasn't going anywhere. That's one where you're upset with yourself for just rushing as an outfielder.
Well, Mike Aviles had an RBI single his last time up. No. Now a comebacker. They get the out at second, and they turn the double play, and Bourne is stuck at third. The Royals played that to perfection. Vargas looked Bourne back first, then threw to second, and Infante then looked Bourne back, and then threw to first, and had all that time to get the double play.
Well, it's the first pitch, one hopper. Bourne couldn't do anything because Infante was ready to come home, and they turned the double play. That was nicely played by the Royals. It's that first pitch that Aviles went after, and really Bourne had no choice. He had to stay put.
Now Carlos Santana singled his last time up. Takes a strike.
So right there, Vargas is picking up his defense. Has a chance to get out of it now after a first and third and nobody out.
Upstairs with it, 1-1. Bourne at third with 2 down now. Santana takes one right down the slot, and it's 1-2. Ball was almost in the dirt, but he got a piece of it. 1-2. And there's a line drive toward right center field, and Rios makes the catch. So an inning started with so much promise, fizzles, and the Indians are still down 2.
Tickets offer the best perks, including savings and access to Tribe Rewards. And today's Tribe Rewards TV code is Vizquel. You can visit Indians.com. Season tickets for complete details.
Corey Kluber goes to work here in the 5th inning. Mike Moustakas already 2 for 2 against him. In the 3rd inning, the Royals had 5 straight hits off Kluber, and the Indians had the bullpen cranking. Austin Adams was getting loose. 1-0 pitch. And we shouldn't be surprised that Corey Kluber was able to right the ship. This is the scene of his first ever major league start. And in that game, the first pitch he threw ended up over the wall in right field for a home run by Alex Gordon. Then the Royals would score 5 more runs before the inning was over. So in his major league debut, he comes out, gives up 6 runs on 6 hits in the 1st inning. And what did he do after that? Put up zeros. Retired the side in order in the 2nd. Got out of the 3rd without a run. Got out of the 4th without. Pitched into the 5th inning before he was finally taken out of the game. But it showed you something that night about his resolve, about his toughness. You know, a lot of guys, your first start, you give up 6 in the 1st.
You may not get out of that.
They're looking for the bullpen. They're looking for the manager to come get him. And Kluber, you could see it that he was determined to stay around as long as he could stay out there.
Yeah, I remember that game here. They ambushed him early.
Out of play. On the night, the Indians have out-hit Kansas City 8-7.
You know, they had a chance to cut into that lead. That one could be foul. 1st and 3rd, nobody out. It was a weird play, but they were able to get out of that inning. The only thing I'm thinking when you come in and you play these Royals, you hate to, if you're down to them in the 6th or 7th inning, you don't want it to be more than 1 run because their bullpen is tough to score on.
The 2-2. Got him looking. Moustakas, the 6th strikeout victim of the night. And there's one down on the 5th. Now Brandon Moss with an RBI double in the 2nd tied the game. Mike Aviles put the Indians ahead with an RBI hit in the 3rd. But then the Royals had that 5 straight hits in the 3rd inning. Kane an RBI double, Hosmer an RBI double, Morales an RBI double. They all came in succession. And if not for a terrific play at the plate on a relay from Moss to Kipnis to Gomes, it could very easily be a 5-2 ball game right now. Kane goes down swinging. And once again, Corey Kluber has struck out 3 consecutive Royals in the game. He's done that twice. This was the play in the 3rd inning when Kane doubled in Escobar, but Moustakas right behind him tried to score. And the throw by Kipnis to Gomes erased him at the plate.
Yeah, that was really a nice relay. You get him, and there's the tag by Gomes. He got the ball. He picked it up. That cut off a run at the plate. You're thinking, all right, they're in business, but they came back and had 3 consecutive hits after that play.
Hosmer had he was the next guy up after that Kane double. Bounces this one to Kipnis. And a 1-2-3 inning for Kluber. 5 complete. Royals 4, Indians 2. Tomorrow night after Indians Live over on Fox Sports Ohio, Cavaliers Live will follow Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Fred, AC, and Allie will be live in Oakland with post-game coverage from the locker room, while Jeff and Campy anchor from the watch party at the Q. Cavaliers Live hits the air following Game 1 of the NBA Finals, only on Fox Sports Ohio.
Good luck to the Cavs.
Ryan Rayburn singled and scored in the second, rounded into a double play in the third inning, and that was a killer. Twice the Indians have hit into double plays tonight, and that's one thing that's really saved Vargas.
Yeah, and the Indians have hit into the second fewest number of double plays. That was their 33rd on the year.
Now the 2-1 off the end of the bat. Rayburn, can he beat Vargas to the bag? Oh, it doesn't matter because the tag is applied by Hosmer, and that's out number 1. Another terrific play by the defensive expertise of Eric Hosmer.
Well, he's long. He's got the long arms over there, and he gets to the baseball. Vargas sort of slipped on the mound. And here he comes into play, and he dives over and he tags Rayburn. He did get him too. He would have beat Vargas over there, I believe, but Hosmer stops him, cuts off the jam.
Now Nick Swisher 0 for 2 tonight. Double barrel action in the KC pen. Right-hander Jason Frazier, left-hander Franklin Morales. And a weak ground ball to short. 2 down. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski. All right, thanks, Al. 2 down. Brandon Moss with an RBI double his first time up. Brown struck out his last time up, and this time he flies one to center, and the Indians go quickly. Middle of the 6th, 4-2 Royals. Win a trip to the All-Star game on Fox for you and 3 of your friends. Upload your photos at foxsports.com/fantastic all-star now through June 3rd. Vargas looks like his night is over after 6 innings of work. Corey Kluber to face Kenry Morales. One ball, 1 strike. Got a piece of that.
Again, with Kluber on the mound for the Indians, it's been a matter of run support. Corey has received the 4th lowest run support average in the majors. It's now 24 runs now in his 12 starts to this point. So
to first base, Santana will take it himself. 1 away.
Well, on Sunday, it'll be Kids Fun Day out at the ballpark, and 5,000 kids will get a T-shirt. That'll be courtesy of UH Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. You get to run the bases after the ball game. Get your tickets at Indians.com.
Alex Gordon flied to left in the 2nd, drew a walk in the 3rd. Ryan Madsen getting loose.
Nice changeup. the left-handers out front.
Up and away. Ooh, close pitch. Not sure what was wrong there.
Gomes brought that down a little bit. It must have been high.
Swing and a miss. Pulled a string on him. And that's the 8th strikeout of the night for Corey Kluber. And there are 2 down here in the 6th inning.
Comes back with a good slider. Swings over the top.
Eight strikeouts in his last 5 starts. Most by an Indian in a 5-start span within a single season. Well, here's the other thing about Kluber, as I mentioned before. If you thought maybe he was on the verge of folding his tent, since the walk to Gordon in the 3rd inning, he's retired 9 in a row.
Yes, he has. That 1 inning where they 5 straight hits after the leadoff strikeout. And he's still looking at about 86 pitches. So if he can get out of this one quickly, he could come back again for the 7th.
The 2-1 off the end of the bat. Rayburn is going to have to go way back and play it on a hop.
Rios got that one a little bit off the end of the bat. And that's why you can see it falls in front. Rayburn, that'll be hit number 8. So both teams have 8 hits. The difference is the Royals have 4 runs.
Omar Infante 0 for 2 is the batter. So Detroit has already lost tonight. They're now 28-26 on the year. Twins split a doubleheader with Boston, and Minnesota 31-21. Here it's a 4-2. Royals lead in the 6th. Runner goes. And a ground ball to short. Aviles can go to first. And the inning is over. 6 in the books. Kansas City 4, Cleveland 2. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. 4-2 KC, 7th inning. And today's Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen will be for right-hander Ryan Madson.
Madson having a nice year for him as he's appearing for the 22nd time, a 1.96 ERA, 23 innings, just allowed 13 hits. Opposition hitting 167 off him. He has appeared in 4 games against the Indians, covering 4 1/3 innings. Gave up 2 hits and 2 runs. The Indians down 2 as we speak.
Well, it's an interesting composition with this Kansas City bullpen. You've got former starters like Davis and Hoshaver, who have become very accomplished setup men. Got a guy like Kelvin Herrera who can literally throw it through the backstop at 100 miles an hour.
Madson,
you got your left-hander Morales, and now you've got Ryan Madson, another guy that they had to wait on to see get him healthy, rehab him, that kind of thing.
Well, he didn't pitch for a couple of years. Was a great closer over in Philadelphia. And then all of a sudden they take a flyer on him and he comes out and he's been lights out. Good changeup. He also can throw it in the mid-90s as well.
Gomes sends a sky-high pop. Shallow center. 1 away. Jason Vargas, kind of a typical Jason Vargas outing. 6 innings, 8 hits, couple of runs, didn't walk anybody, struck out 3.
That's the big play for him. A couple of double play balls that he's been able to get. He adds, he subtracts. This is the play right here. 1st and 3rd, nobody out. They turned the double play and they couldn't get the run home from 3rd. So
right back to Madsen. It gets through, and Lonnie Chisenhall's aboard with a 1-out single here in the 7th, and the Indians will bring the tying run to the plate. And up to the plate comes Michael Bourne.
Ball looked like it went through Madsen.
It sure did. I thought he was going to catch it.
I thought he was at least going to knock it down. How it got past him, I don't know. Let's check it out. I mean, it looked like it was going right back through him, which it did. And how did it get through there? That ball, he had his glove there, and there couldn't have been much room. But it got through. It rolled into center field.
That got through the same way we say sometimes, how did that ball just go right in the glove? You know, sometimes the guy doesn't even look, and the ball goes right in his glove on the pitcher's mound. Now the 1-1. Throw to first instead, drives Chisenhall back. Well, as you've noted, this Kansas City bullpen tough to score, and this could be the Indians' best shot now here in the 7th inning.
Changeup
on and missed.
He has an excellent changeup. It's about 83 miles per hour. You'll see it, the good arm speed, and you can see the movement on it, and you can see how the hitters react to it.
Downstairs, good block by Butera.
You know, when pitchers can throw it 3-4 times in a row, that it's tough to hit. With that arm speed coming, you're saying, all right, I'm going to look for that changeup, and sometimes you just can't. You can't stay back on it. because he can keep you honest with the fastball. Another changeup.
Right back up the middle again. This one's barehanded and no play. So back-to-back balls hit at Madsen. One went through him. This one he slowed it down so that there's no play able to be made, and the Indians have 2 on with 1 out.
Well, I found a way to hit Ryan Madsen, hit him right back at him. One will get through, one will go off his glove, and it looked like Butera got hit with the bat there from Bourne. Watch the backswing as he throws the bat. You see, he tripped on it.
Yeah.
He was going up to go back up that play, and that bat got in his way, and Bourne gets an infield single, though. See, he flipped it back up, and it hits Butera.
Well, here is Jason Kipnis, 1 for 3 on the night. Singled his last time up. Madsen deals. Let's go down to Andre, who has more on Kipnis.
How did Jason Kipnis become player of the month in the month of May? By punishing fastballs. Guys, he hit .556 against fastballs in the month of May. Over his career, he's hit .291 versus them. Also, yes, he did shave. He says he's leaving that in May. I told him he looks like he's 12. He says he feels like he's 11.
Another 1-0. He takes a strike, and the count evens at 1-1.
Well, those were pretty much show fastballs there, because he's going to get changeups to hit there because he has been hitting the fastball.
Well, Andre, it was Kipnis who said at the end of April, got to turn the page, because now it's the month of May, but now he might be thinking about holding on to that page as we turn the calendar to June. The 1-1 missed inside. Now he's put himself in a good spot, 2-1. Although, what is a good spot? Kipnis had 19 two-strike hits in the month of May.
He hit everything in sight. 22 extra base hits. I'd love to see a gapper here. I'd like to see it to right center, but his swing has been so that he has been wearing out left center field if they stay away from him.
The 2-1.
Change up.
Pops it up. Routine to left. And Gordon makes the play. 2 down.
He went and threw him 3 straight fastballs, in, out, in. And to get him out, he ended up going to that money pitch, the changeup, and has Jason out on the front foot, and it's down and away. You see, upset as a hitter, you're telling yourself you have to stay back, but he set it up nicely with the fastballs, in and out.
Now here's Mike Aviles, 1 out of 3 with an RBI hit back in the 3rd, but he hit into a key double play that short-circuited their potential rally in the 5th. Misses outside, 1-1. Bourne is the tying run at first base, so he's got to get a great jump on any ball Aviles puts in play here. Low, 2-1. Bouncing ball. Oh, what a pick by Hosmer. Throws to second to end the inning. Another defensive gem by the Royals infield here tonight. And we've reached the 7th inning stretch. Brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Now, Mike Aviles came close to keeping the inning alive for Cleveland, but the difference between close and an out is Eric Hosmer's glove.
Well, look how far off the bag he was. If you were going to beat him, you were going to have to beat him down the line, the backhand side. That ball was in the hole, but he was so far off first base, and his momentum carrying him to second, it's an easy flip to get the runner.
We go now to the bottom of the seventh. Corey Kluber facing Drew Butera. He has struck him out twice already tonight. Indians bullpen quiet at the moment. Popped him up. Chisenhall, the third baseman, makes the grab, one away. As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite, and Corey Kluber has struck out 8 Kansas City Royals tonight.
Yeah, he always seems to get a lot of swings and misses when he can get ahead of you. The times that Kansas City hurt him, they jumped him early in the count. But here he is in the 7th inning now. He's allowed 8 hits, but 4 runs, and it was a big 3rd inning.
And a first pitch strike to Alcides Escobar, who is 2 out of 3 tonight. Single, double, 2 runs scored.
Yes,
tried
he
to bunt
did.
and came up empty.
Good call by Bob Davidson. He saw him go after it. He made the call himself, and he certainly did try to bunt this.
Swung on and missed. Kluber makes quick work of Escobar, and that gives him 9 strikeouts on the night.
Well, come on out early on Friday to the right field district for $2 Miller Lite cans when the Indians will take on the Baltimore Orioles. You can get a 12-ounce Miller Lite for $2 from 5 to 7. Stay for the ball game. Get your tickets at Indians.com.
Mike Moustakas takes a little bit low, ball 1. There's a strike call. And Moustakas goes down in a heap.
Looked like it went off his front toe. Let's check it out. The breaking ball coming down and in, and they go down in a hurry, don't they? Kluber back into the count now, 2-2.
And the count is now full. Payout pitch. Popped him up. Center fielder Michael Bourne rolling in, makes the catch, and the Royals go 1-2-3. We'll head to the 8th in Kansas City. Still 4-2 Royals. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. We're going to the 8th inning here in Kansas City with a 4-2 Royals lead. And the third pitcher of the night will be Kelvin Herrera, fireballing right-hander.
Yeah, he came into the ball game last night. He gave up a base hit to Brandon Moss and then struck out the side in the 7th inning, and he was dealing. He was getting it up there. Great fastball, good changeup. So he's on here for the 8th. Santana looks like we'll get Murphy pinch hitting for Rayburn, and then Swisher.
Carlos Santana going to lead it off. He's 1 for 3 on the night. And a foul right back. Just outside. Down on the dirt. Kelvin Herrera was a teenager when the Royals found him in the Dominican Republic. First year of pro ball, if you will, in the Royals Dominican Summer League team. In 43 innings, he struck out 50 and had an .084 ERA. It didn't take him long to move up the ladder. I mean, easy out here. 1 down. It's Escobar, the shortstop, who makes the play. Saturday baseball on Fox Sports 1 returns, and the Rangers take on these Kansas City Royals. And it's baseball night in America with a Central Division showdown between the Tigers and White Sox. Coverage begins at 1:30 Eastern on 1, your home for baseball every Saturday, Fox and Fox Sports 1. Swung on and missed. David Murphy pinch hitting for Rayburn, who went 1 for 3 tonight.
Started him off a little breaking ball there. You know, and that's a first pitch, get me over pitch, and he had Murphy swinging. I guess when this guy's throwing 100, his changeup's at 90.
Slowly chopped. Going to be a tough play here. Bare hand grab. Throw to first. Got him. Why not? They've made almost every single defensive play in this game tonight. Saved one bobble in center field by Lorenzo Cain that went down as an error. But outside of that, they have been spectacular.
It was the only way that Escobar was going to make the play was the bare hand. Watch how quickly he goes up top and gets rid of it. See how fast he did that with his bare hand? I mean, that ball was not in his hand long. I thought Murphy was going to beat it out. It was one step and the run, and that's in slow motion. He was able to get rid of the ball and throw a strike for out number 2.
And with 2 down, Nick Swisher to the plate, 0 for 3 on the night. Back in 2011, Kelvin Herrera used to call his mom back in the Dominican Republic, no matter how late it was at night, to tell her about every time he won a promotion in the organization. That year he went from A ball to AA to AAA to the big leagues. So there were a lot of late night phone calls.
I was going to say, he was talking to her regularly.
And I don't think she minded a bit. Now the 1-1 to Swish. A little bit outside. Brandon Moss would be next. That stays fair behind the bag. Scooped up by Hosmer, and an easy flip to first to end the inning. Indians go 1-2-3. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, coming up after the ball game right here on Sports Time Ohio with highlights and analysis. David Murphy stays in the game in left field. Corey Kluber stays on for now. Lorenzo Cain leading off the bottom of the 8th, 1 for 3 on the night.
I wonder if Kluber's on for just one hitter. Or Tita's going to let him go to the lefties. We'll find out.
Well, one pitch, one out. There's Santana in the foul territory, grabs it. Looks like Kluber stays on to face Eric Hosmer, who's 1 for 3. That could have been a number of things, Rick. It could have been if Cain has a 6, 7, 8 pitch at bat, ends up with a base hit, you go get him. If he gets a base hit, maybe you go get it. But one pitch, one out, you stay with Kluber.
Why not? He's earned the right to stay here and try and get himself a win if they can come on and score in the 9th. The Indians have out hit the Royals 10-8. They came out in that 3rd inning with 1 out and had 5 consecutive hits. Greg Holland, their closer, getting loose.
The 1-1. Hosmer squaring around to show bunt with the shift on. Takes an off-speed pitch, breaking ball in there, and it's 2-2. Right back by Kluber. Got a piece of it. Kipnis throws it wide of the bag, and Santana couldn't come up with it. So Hosmer's aboard with 1 out.
You know, it's almost Kip came in to get it after the deflection, I think, by Kluber, and I think that Aviles was probably in better position to take this play. He was there. Let's watch as they converge on it, but you don't know that. Kipnis doesn't know he's sitting there. He wants to go get the ball and make the throw. If he makes a good throw, he has him. See, he cuts right. Aviles was going down. He had to throw across his body and couldn't get anything on it. So it'll go as a base hit for Hosmer.
And Kendry Morales 1 for 3 on the night to the plate. Out of play. A lot of communication with the shift on in the infield. Infielders talking to each other. Chisenhall takes the throw on a ground ball to the right side to turn a double play. Aviles telling Corey Kluber, a comebacker to you. You're looking for me at the bag. Interesting though, Rick, because of the shifts, you don't think of infielders having to call each other off, which is almost what you needed to have happen on that ground ball by Hosmer.
Yeah, well, you're seeing it more and more, and we better get used to it because you're going to see it a lot with all the shifting.
Good pitch, outside corner, 1-2. Kipnis and Aviles still carrying on a conversation out there on the infield. Now the 1-2. Throw to first instead. Drives Hosmer back.
It was Morales that had that RBI double with 2 outs to give him 20 RBIs with 2 outs this year out of his 38.
Right back to Kluber. He'll go to Aviles, who goes back to Santana to turn the double play. So that time the communication worked to a T. We'll go to the 9th. 4-2 Kansas City. Ninth inning here in Kansas City, and as we take a look back at our Wayside Furniture keys to the game, take advantage of the scoring opportunities. Indians unable to do that for the most part tonight. They did score a couple, but all those double plays short-circuited a couple of rallies, and defensively they're fine tonight. That wasn't the issue. The issue tonight was one 5-batter stretch where Corey Kluber got banged around a little bit, and Kansas City scored 3 runs to take the lead, and the Indians have been unable to answer, even though they've had opportunities in multiple innings.
Yeah, there's not much more you can say. The Indians have had their opportunities, and when it happened to Kluber, it happened quickly. The first 2 hitters of the game, 2 pitches, they had a run in, and then they did that same thing pretty much in the 3rd.
So here is Brandon Moss to lead it off for Cleveland in the 9th inning. 1 for 3 with an RBI double. And he fouls it off his foot. If the Indians don't tie the game or take the lead, Corey Kluber will be credited with his first complete game of the year. And Moss fouls another one off of his foot. This one got him on the shin, I think. It either hit right on that pad or it might have hit an exposed area of the leg above the pad. Oh, ouch. Yeah, right on the inside of the knee.
Inside of the knee is right.
Jeff Desjardins coming out to check him out along with Terry Francona. There's not a lot of meat on the inside of that knee.
Well, you just need time to let the stinging or the biting of it go away. You can see it how it goes just on the upper part of that front knee. Very tender area.
Yeah, Moss going to hang in there. Try to give it a go. He's down on the count, 0-2. This has to be one of the biggest shifts that I've seen from Moss this year. Not only do you have the 3 infielders on the right side, but Lorenzo Cain, look where he's at. He's way over toward right center.
Oh, yeah.
And he pops it to left center where the center fielder has to run a long way to make the catch, but a lot of air under that one. 1 down. Our Pat O'Brien Chevrolet play of the game. First on a first and second, or first and third. Nobody out. And a double play. And Michael Bourne unable to score from third. Vargas looks him back at third. Gets the out. Infante looks him back. And throws the first, and they get the double play. That was a tremendous defensive play. And it squashed an Indians rally. Yan Gomes 1 for 3 on the night. Greg Holland sets and delivers the 0-2 to Gomes. Two pitch. Going away.
Good take right there. He has that slider that a lot of hitters chase after. So good it looks like a splitter. Really falls off the side of the mound. Not a big guy either.
Gomes sends a fly ball. Lazy fly to center. 2 down. Kansas City's bullpen has combined to retire 7 in a row. And now 29,899 on their feet as Lonnie Chisenhall, 1 for 3 on the night, steps in. Breaking ball in for a strike. Wow, that's not fair, is it?
No, not when you can throw as hard as he can, and that's just a slow curve ball, take you off everything else. Well, we haven't seen him in a while, but I don't remember him starting many hitters off with a pitch like that.
Me either. Here's the 0-1. In off the plate, but Chisenhall trying to get after it, finds himself in the hole 0-2. And the 0-2. Swung on and missed. He struck him out. Kansas City cools off the Indians, beating the Tribe 4-2 to even the series at a game apiece. Kansas City goes to 30-20. The Indians fall to 25-27. Jason Vargas the win. He's 4-2. Greg Holland the save. It's his 8th. Corey Kluber, truly the tough luck loser tonight. He goes to 3-6 on the season. Story of the night: opportunities that the Indians just could not cash in on offensively. That really ultimately comes down to the difference between winning and losing here tonight for Cleveland.
Well, again, Corey Kluber's on the mound. They get him 2 runs when he's pitching, and that's 4th worst run support. So they couldn't score. They had their opportunities, and Kansas City did enough against Kluber to get 4 runs on the board.
Royals had lost 6 out of 7 coming into tonight. The Indians had won 11 out of 14. But it's the Royals who get the W. 4-2 is the final. We've got some final thoughts after this.